The Oklahoma Sooners have the toughest road ahead in the rest of the 2025 college football season.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets and every other bet now over at FanDuel.com. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire and USA Today Sports. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel for more college football and Oklahoma Sooners content. And Jay, the AP poll and the US LBM coaches poll came out on Sunday and revealed something pretty fishy going on with the Oklahoma Sooners schedule. It's looking even tougher now than it did back in August.
Yeah, it's adding just to the toughness that we know that's going on. But first and foremost, we got to celebrate the fact that Oklahoma is sitting here as the number 13 team in the country on the AP poll. 13. The coaches poll has moved Oklahoma over to 16. But, we don't really care about the coaches poll as much.
Big
Coaches,
jumps.
It was a jump. It was a jump. The coaches still got a lot of love for Ole Miss. But I think this AP poll kind of jumped out to me too, John, because as you mentioned about the schedule coming up, if you look at it here, every SEC team we've got left ranked in the top 25. And the way it's going, they're probably going to be ranked when we see each and every one of them. With LSU being at the end of the season at number 3, it's going to take a bit for them to tumble. If they do tumble, Missouri, if their schedule lines up, they should keep winning a lot more than some of the other teams in front of them. So the question really is, John, how many of these teams will Oklahoma actually see when they face them? Will they still be actually ranked?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Auburn, obviously, if they can get by South Alabama, which I imagine that they will, but you never know. South Alabama has been known to pull an upset or two here and there. I imagine they will be. You look at the rest of Oklahoma's schedule, and Texas will probably be ranked. Even if they go and they lose to Florida, I still see them being ranked as a top 15, top 20 type team. And then after that, South Carolina will likely be ranked. Tennessee is the one that maybe I have the biggest question about on the rest of the schedule, because their next several games look pretty interesting. They've got Georgia this week and probably the game of the week. I think ESPN College Game Day is going to be in Knoxville for that. Then they've got UAB, should be fine. Mississippi State, that game is a whole different looking kind of game in Starkville now after Mississippi State beat Arizona State than what it was a month ago. Like, that game looks totally different now for Tennessee. And then they play Arkansas on October 11 and they play Alabama on October 18, a tough Kentucky team October 25. And then it's OU November 1st. I'm not saying that they're going to lose all of those games. Also wouldn't surprise me to see them drop a game maybe to Mississippi State or to Arkansas and see themselves fall to a fringe top 25 team by the time they get to Oklahoma.
Yeah, the Arkansas is, Taylor Green, he has 10 touchdowns so far to start the season. Okay. He's been playing pretty good football. Like, you can't overlook that. And again, like you said, with Mississippi State, that win was really big against Arizona State. Now, granted, the question more so is Arizona State just bad?
Right.
Or is Mississippi State good? And I got to give it to Levy and crew, man. They were balling out. Anthony Evans as well as Brennan Thompson both had 100 yards. Old friend alert. Brennan played here. Anthony Evans was a recruit here. So he committed and decommitted and went to Georgia and then ended up with Levy no matter what. So, hey, Levy understands the players he needs to be successful, and he picked up a couple that could add to that. So I'm really curious to see where Tennessee looks on that. But overall, though, as you look at that schedule, I agree. It's going to be challenging to see who all ends up being in the top 25 by the time we face them. But it appears that we actually even got some times for our games now going forward.
Yeah, so Oklahoma will play Auburn at 2:30 on September 20th. It's not a bad time. I mean, the 2:30 window is like traditionally the SEC.
It's the prime game.
Slot.
Yeah, it's the big time game of the week.
Yeah, that's their favored time slot. So I think it's a pretty solid place to be. It gives Oklahoma fans all morning and the early part of the afternoon to really get juiced up for Jackson Arnold's return to Norman in that one. The other interesting aspect of this, Jay, is the only AP top 25 team from the SEC. There are only 2 AP top 25 teams from the SEC that Oklahoma doesn't play. That's number 6, Georgia, number 16, Texas A&M.
Yeah.
They play a bunch of other ones. They have 8 AP top 25 teams from the SEC that they'll play. The Texas Longhorns, they have 3? Georgia, Texas A&M, and Oklahoma.
Yeah. At the end of that schedule, when you look at it, there's 5 teams in the SEC that aren't ranked, and Oklahoma doesn't get to play any of them.
And Texas gets to play all of them.
And Texas plays all of them. I saw Dari Noka mentioned that on the radio, and I saw the post about it a bit ago. I think it was Brent McMurphy over there on 3 posted it, and I was like, interesting. All those teams you posted, Oklahoma doesn't get to see. Mm-mm. Texas gets them, though.
Yep.
Shout out to them. They get to keep to maintain that.
That's what happens when you have a decade of mediocrity going into the SEC. Is you get the more favorable schedule. When you've been successful like Oklahoma was, you don't get the benefit of that.
Gotta work.
It's a great opportunity for Oklahoma, though, as you look at it. When you have this many ranked opponents on your schedule, it's opportunity. It's opportunity to go and put yourself in a better position to get consideration for the college football playoff. You go win games, you go 6-2 in SEC play, you're going to be in a great spot to go make the playoff. If you go 6-2 in SEC play, you're making the playoff because you're probably 10-2. You go 5-3 in SEC play, and you're going to have a very legitimate case for making the playoff because you're not going to have a bad loss on your schedule. Your losses will be to ranked opponents.
Yeah, most likely. The question, that's where my question still leads to: who's going to be left when we face him at the end of the season? Because you're right. There's a very good chance that any losses we have in SEC play are to ranked teams, and that's very beneficial to us in the long term, right? But good thing for us, though, it also gives us a challenge. It's going to be very gratifying if we can get through all of this. I'm not saying we are, but I'm saying if we do, it would feel amazing because we took one of the toughest roads to be able to get there, to get anywhere, regardless of what the record is. We took one of the toughest roads to get there, and the one thing you cannot do is deny Oklahoma's talent and their just fight and tenacity to make it through. So yeah, I'm ready to see what this looks like. But the Auburn 2:30 game was kind of sad to me because it kind of borderline. Well, it doesn't eliminate you from having game day come back, which I don't think game day is gonna come back that quick. But when I looked at that week's schedule, the schedule for that week, the schedule is weak. When you look at that week's schedule. Mm-hmm. Florida kind of ruined it for themselves. They had Miami that week, and if they were undefeated, that was game day, in which they are the night game. They may still get it, but that would have been like the game day week guaranteed.
What? I mean, you don't get pumped up for Illinois, Indiana, or
South
Carolina, Missouri.
That'd be fun.
Missouri doesn't do it for you. Right now that's looking like a top 25 showdown. Little battle of Columbias could get the needle moving a little bit. Yeah.
But the Jackson Arnold storyline is always about storylines, right? Mm-hmm. What helped Oklahoma get this Michigan one, not only are they both blue blood programs, Michigan coming off national championship, Sharon Moore being a former Oklahoma player, it's now the emergence of a particular quarterback by the name of John Mateer, which we'll talk about shortly. There's so many things that go with it. You would think the Jackson Arnold return to Oklahoma after he's had a couple of really good games. Well, he should have 3 good games by that time. Would be another storyline to look at.
Man, that schedule is terrible. Texas Tech at Utah.
Told you.
Texas Tech at Utah. That's about the only other one. Like there's 3 options maybe. When Oregon State and Oregon were both in the Pac-12 and Oregon State was actually good, that one would be a college game day option for sure. But yeah, with Illinois, Indiana, Fox big noon kickoff will probably end up there, but South Carolina, Missouri, to me, if it's not OU and Auburn, that's the one that makes the most sense, is getting up there in Columbia. But will their stadium be in a position to host College Game Day? I don't know. That'd be fascinating. But could Oklahoma get College Game Day twice in the 3-week span or 4-week span? That'd be pretty awesome.
It would be.
They showed out in such a way this last time that maybe ESPN's like, you know what, let's just go ahead and go on back there. They did a pretty good job, but
they know they're gonna get the ratings because it's a revenge game.
Yeah. The storylines will be there. And again, there's not a lot else going on that week. So OU has a chance to be front and center on the national stage once again, which, hey, for all of the criticisms about OU's schedule, this one kind of worked out in OU's favor here. John Mateer climbing the Heisman odds rankings. We'll discuss that coming up next year on Locked On Sooners.
Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavor shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great moments with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, I need that quite often. 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. So it makes me think about like when I took my son out for the first time playing, and he wasn't doing very well on the golf course, but he got his first like deep putt and it landed. Man, was he excited. And so that was one of those moments where you're like, golf, I still love you. So golf is about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up for fun even more. Just buy Snap and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for 2 to any golf tournament in the USA. That's huge. Tee up that tournament. Use 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes. The Master Tournament ends October 31st of 2025. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel's making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Like for me, I'm loving how easy it is. I'm looking at these lines going into next week. You've got Oklahoma as a minus 24.5 point favorite against Temple. I mean, if you're in an area or close to an area where you can jump on it, highly recommend it because I think that's a $5 bet. That's worth the investment. So, are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're going to talk standout players from Oklahoma's win against Michigan, aside from John Mateer, because we're going to talk John Mateer right now. Over at FanDuel, John Mateer has climbed up to the number 2 odds to win the Heisman Trophy at this point in the season. He's plus 1,000, only behind Garrett Nussmeier.
I met Garrett the other day.
Yeah, Garrett. And he's tied with Miami's
Hurst.
Carson Beck among the Heisman odds leaderboards over at FanDuel. Just behind them, Dante Moore at Oregon at plus 1,100. Arch Manning's dropped down now to plus 1,300. Just in front of Gunnar Stockton at plus 1,400, Lenore Sellers plus 1,800, and several other players.
I'm kind of curious as to why Lenore Sellers is so low, but we'll have to talk about that another day. I feel like he should be a lot higher, even though, I guess his performance wasn't just that unreal in the first 2 games of the season, but that just feels kind of low for him. But
he just hasn't had a moment yet, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And that's kind of where John Mateer comes in. When we talk about this Heisman campaign, you all are wondering, why are we gassing John Mateer only after the second game? Guys, he did that on national television, 344 yards against a Michigan defense that's infamous for being really good. This is the first time Michigan has given up over 400 yards in a game since Oregon last year. Like, this is not a team that does this very often. Now, granted, they had a lot of missing pieces over some parts. Their big-time linebacker, Barham, came back from the second half, and he was getting a lot of tackles, but he was still a non-factor. Oklahoma still moving the ball and doing the things that they needed to do. That 8-minute drive at the end, John, was everything we dreamed of. I got a little emotional, man. I was, Excuse me, say wipe my eye real quick. Yeah, but yeah,
I got one of those.
just
I got one of those digital picture frames, and I just like condensed that 8.5-minute drive into a video, and then I just hung that on my wall. So
yeah, just let it run. Just let it run.
my wife's
nonstop
not
in a
too
loop.
pleased about it, but it's just, I mean, it's art. Like that is art, and
It's
going to
art.
go up front and center right next to the kids' pictures.
Yep, it's art, but sports. That's exactly what it is. Shout out to the guy that does that channel, that account. But that's exactly what you're hoping for out of Oklahoma, John. That's what you want from this team. And I say this about John Mateer's Heisman campaign. Why it's beginning is you're seeing him all over the national media right now. Todd McShay's talking about him, Joel Klatt, Josh Pate. You're seeing them all over ESPN. You're seeing them all over Fox. You're seeing them everywhere. CBS Sports has got all these features on them. You had Marty and McGee. Marty came out and did an interview with them before the Michigan game. My point is, the one big thing about the Heisman Trophy is really about the story. Who has the most compelling story on top of doing something you probably have never seen before? And John Mateer is not doing something you've never seen before, but he's probably going to put up some of the best stats in the country. That now, just start preparing yourself. You're going to start hearing his name everywhere. On 3, John. Let me tell you what On 3 has. They post up their Week 3 Heisman poll. Number 1 on that list, John Mateer. Thomas Castiglionis is right behind him with Garrett Nussmeier at 3. Devin Dampier at Utah is 4. Carson Beck 5. Lenore Sellers 6. Caleb Downs is 7. Dante Moore 8. Ruben Bain is 9. Edge, that's really weird. And Jonah Coleman up there at Washington is 10. And then Pete Nakos follows up with Castiglionis as his number 1, with Mateer number 2, and Lenore Sellers number 3. It's becoming a talk.
Yeah.
Brace yourself. You're going to hear more of it for the next... After Auburn, depending on how he plays in that game, you might hear it for the rest of the season.
If Oklahoma continues to win and John Mateer plays well, he'll continue to sit in the top of the Heisman odds. Oklahoma doesn't have to go 10-2, 11-1 for Mateer to get serious Heisman consideration.
Nope.
He's going to put up numbers. Oklahoma's going to be in some tight ball games that are going to give him the opportunity to have Heisman moments. And against a schedule that we just talked about is one of the toughest in college football, with 8 more ranked opponents potentially, that's going to give him the opportunity to continue to solidify that resume. 392 yards passing in week 1 against Illinois State, and then 344 total yards in week 2 against Michigan. He's got 7 total touchdowns, on pace right now for 42 total touchdowns in a 12-game season, for, which is crazy to me. But if he just goes and keeps winning and keeps putting up numbers, he'll be in the discussion, and he'll be part of the conversation, and he'll find himself in New York. Now, whether he wins it all or not, that remains to be seen. Yep. But he's going to have a very solid case all year long, because Oklahoma's putting the weight of the world on his shoulders, and so far he's responded well. And this may not be the best Michigan team that they've had in the last few years, but it's still a really solid Michigan team, and he did everything he needed him to do. And I don't,
last year.
And I don't necessarily think that the defenses that Oklahoma will face the rest of the season are so significantly better than Michigan that his numbers will have a significant drop off. Will he have 344 total yards every week? Probably not. But I certainly can envision a 250 to 300 total yards on a regular basis with multiple total touchdowns, 2 to 3 total touchdowns every week. And that's going to put him in the conversation.
Yeah, I think that he does average at least 300 yards per game by himself going forward. It just feels like that's what's probably going to happen. They may find a way to try to get big plays going against Temple. Heck, you already got stuff on tape. Just go ahead and just sling it out there and let some big plays happen. Get Michael Hawkins out there, let him or Whit Neubauer, let him get out there and let them sling it to everybody else as well. My expectations is that John Mateer this is going to be a game where you're going to additionally add stat padding numbers onto it. But the good thing for us is that we've seen him do it against a really good defense, and we're going to see him do it again. Look, Auburn gave up 417 yards to Sawyer Robertson. If you don't think John Mateer is better than Sawyer, I just have no reason to even have a conversation with you about sports. I'll just say that out loud. He's going to go out there, John. He's going to probably put up those numbers. I really do believe John Mateer And I think it's warranted. I think he deserves the conversation to happen after the numbers he put up last year, for him to come back in 2 games, lead the conference in in passing yards, and do what he's doing. Yeah, we everybody else has had the opportunity to play cupcakes, John. Everybody else has. They've had opportunity to stat pad and everything. Heck, Joey Aguilar and them, they were throwing up 70 something or whatnot against East Tennessee. John Mateer still leads the conference in yards.
Yeah, 270 yards passing against a good Michigan defense, 74 yards rushing on 19 carries, 3 total touchdowns. He had a Heisman-like performance in week 2. Now it's just a matter of continuing to build on that, go have a great game against Auburn, have a really good game against Texas, and then that final, 7 games of the season or 6 games of the season, a lot of it is going to depend on how this team plays and how John Mateer plays. But as we saw on Saturday night, they've got a defense that's going to play winning football. They've got an offense that's good enough to go score points against pretty much anybody.
Yep.
It's a matter of taking care of the mistakes, erasing some of those things, and making the plays when you got to make the plays. They did so on Saturday night. Who made those plays? Who are some of the standout players? We'll discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. Football season is here, and we couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can pull up the Game Time app, and you can see amazing deals. Even this week for Oklahoma's trip to Temple, there's a lot of great seats available. Even in the lower bowl, you could get up close and personal to see John Mateer really get after the Owls up there in Philadelphia. So got to check out the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go download Game Time today. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. John Mateer had a great game on Saturday against the Michigan Wolverines. But Jay, who else on the offensive side of the ball really stood out to you in that performance?
I've been going between a couple of people in preparation for this. We were talking about it. I'm going to ride with Deion Burks. He got his Michigan revenge because for a lot of people that, for the uninitiated, he's from Detroit, didn't get recruited by any of the Michigan schools, ended up at Purdue, looked pretty good there at the Purdue. And he talked about it before the game that he wanted his revenge. He wanted them to know his name. And I'm so glad that we found a way to make sure that he was heavily involved in the offense and allowing him to go out there and actually put up the numbers that, he wanted to do against a Michigan team that is pretty good. That deep pass is funny. I was watching Todd McShay, and he just could not stop raving about Mateer throwing that pass and having the gall, the audacity to do that so early in the game and just launch it because it was a beautiful fade. Mm-hmm. And Burks was in the perfect spot of boom. And then, of course, Burks getting that, I guess you could say it was like a jet sweep, but it was a pass because he threw it in front of him or whatnot. So it counts as a pass. He caught that. Yeah, the pop pass. Takes that around. Great blocking, too, by a lot of great players that deserve some also kudos. Like we've got so many players we could talk about and plays that they made, but doing that, getting that touchdown, man, that just made you say, look at you, Deion. Look at Deion. 7 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. I couldn't argue with the fact that he was able to be out there and be the leading receiver. I said before the game, I was wondering who they were going to have to stop Keontez Lewis, number 9. Michigan fans like, we've got all these great players that can do it. Unfortunately, I was wrong. It was Deion Burks instead.
Well, that's an okay thing to be wrong about. This is the Deion Burks that everybody expected to see, when he was, when he committed to Oklahoma back in the 2024 offseason. And now, again, he's leading the team in receiving. He's got 14 catches, 189 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the season. That was the dude. Like, that was the guy. And what I like about the way that Ben Arbuckle is using him is we're getting him down the field, letting him use his speed on the outside. The way he was being used out of the slot, which I don't mind him being utilized out of the slot, but we weren't allowing his vertical speed to be a factor as much last year. He was catching a lot of short passes and having to make things happen after the catch. And there just wasn't a lot of room to work because teams weren't concerned about Oklahoma down the field. Well, Deion Burks is killing teams right now down the field. And that's going to open up so much in the underneath game for this team. And you've already seen it because guys like Jaren Kanak are thriving in the underneath game, catching the ball at 5 yards and then being able to pick up yards after the catch. It's going to eventually open up the run game because teams are going to get tired of being killed by the passing game, especially when they're trying to play cover 2 and John Mateer's just dropping it in over the corner and in front of the safety. Like, he and Deion Burks really have that working, and they could have had so many more plays if, John Mateer just kind of puts it out there a little bit more as opposed to line driving Deion Burks. Maybe a little miscommunication on should it have been a back shoulder fade versus a go. It's hard to know exactly sometimes, but Deion Burks has been awesome so far this season.
No, I agree. And then that pass, a lot of us would have hoped you'd let him a little bit to where he could run it for the touchdown, but that fade was the perfect play. Like, I don't want to misconstrue any of that and make people believe anything else. That was the perfect pass that he made for Burks because of the way that they had the safety come up and look like he was blitzing, and he sprinted back to go into a cover 2, which means there's 2 safeties that are deep or whatnot. We ran a couple of plays that were cover 2 busters. One cover 2 buster was the Kanak catch across the middle at the beginning of the game, 3rd and 9, and you just throw it to a dude and he catches it. He's a right-handed dude with his left hand, extends and catches it, gives it a little bobble and takes it up. That's a cover 2 buster because you just hit that open middle. But the Burks one, he faded it perfectly because he outran the receiver. The safety was coming across and he put it in a spot where only Deion was able to catch it. Unfortunately, it let him out of bounds, but it was just so
great,
perfect.
Yeah, no, that one was awesome. So Deion Burks stand out in this game for me on the offensive side of the ball. Michael Fasusi, your first start against Michigan, and you only give up 2 pressures on 34 dropbacks. Like, that's really good, and that's a great start to your college career. Was it perfect? Probably not. I don't have the all 22 tape available to be able to go and look at every single one of his snaps. But from what I saw from a broadcast perspective, he was holding up his end of the bargain in pass pro. He looked good as a run blocker, and he'll continue to get better as he gets stronger, more athletic, more confident in what he's supposed to be doing out there. A great start for the true freshman.
Yeah, it was a great start. It was exactly the start you wanted. That you wanted from having a true freshman start in a big game too, John. You said, it's just a huge moment for a player. Like, you knew was going to be really good, but you go out there and you start him as a true freshman left tackle against a Michigan front that is really good. Like, we're not going to discount them whatsoever. I don't care what y'all try to say about them whatsoever. That front's good. He held his own. He looked like he was a savvy vet. Kind of hurt his ankle a little bit. Somebody stepped on his ankle, said it's a little sore, but he's good.
It's going to happen.
He'll be back out there. Right, it's going to happen. He may not play in the Temple game. And the funny thing is, that was his first career start.
Yeah.
He didn't even play in the first game. Yeah. He just said, hey, you ready? Let's go. Yep. And having Heath right next to him, who's a veteran on the line, was really good to help, probably build some confidence or whatnot. But he graded very well in the game. He had 66 snaps out there. Heath Ozida led the team. Him and Michaela and Derek Simmons and Fabichi who all had 75 snaps with John Mateer. They all played every snap. Keontez Lewis played 73, but you had Fasusi at 66 snaps before he got hurt. He was going to play all 75.
Yeah.
Which, that is so awesome for a true freshman.
Yep. Defensively, who was your standout, man?
Yeah, defensively, man, there were so many of them. Y'all know my love for Cortland Guillory and the way he shot. Keep it freshman, dog. I'm gonna keep it with Cortland. I'm just so impressed that he's able to go out there as a true freshman and really cause problems when you knew he was going to get picked on. That's the thing that's crazy. Right. He was being picked on the entire game, and he just kept going. Yeah. He made sure that there wasn't a single moment where they were going to be able to take advantage of him, even though we knew they was picking at him. So, got to give it to Guillory on that one.
Yeah, eventually teams are going to get tired of incomplete passes just because they're trying to pick on the true freshman. You know, like eventually there's going to be enough tape out there. It's like, okay, maybe we need to quit picking on the true freshman because he's like real good.
Yep.
We're going to need to try and throw somewhere else because they're tired of getting those passes broken up.
It makes me think about Gentry in 2023 because that's when you had him and it was Woody and everybody was picking on Gentry because they had seen Woody play for a few years. They're like, okay, he's a pretty solid corner. We're not going to go his direction in the Big 12. And so they kept going to Gentry, and then Gentry kept shutting it down. I'm like, well, shoot. We're going to go over there to the other side where you got Kanai mixed up with Woody. So it was like they couldn't fit. That's what we're seeing now. Everybody's realizing at a certain point when Guillory gets his first pick, that turns into a pick six, then I think people will start throwing his direction.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the former lacrosse player. Give our guy Owen Heinecke a little love. Sorry, that's why I got up in the middle of Jay's conversation. I wanted to get some props here to truly show my love and respect for one Owen Heinecke, the former Ohio State lacrosse player, transferred to Oklahoma and really stood out at linebacker. You know, had 7 tackles, a tackle for loss, a pass breakup. The pass breakup was huge, man. He comes around the corner on the blitz, you know, looping around the left side, and it's not going to get there, but he throws his hands up, is able to, you know, knock the play away. On the tackle for loss, it's a read option, and he gets just enough of Bryce Underwood, a big, tall dude. I was watching Bryce Underwood warm up in pregame. I was like, okay, he might be a true freshman, but he's built like a man. Like, he is huge. I get the Cam Newton comparisons a little bit because he's big. And
he's a ginormous human being.
Yeah, Owen Heinecke was able to bring him down in the open field on that read option, that zone read play, and just a really good game. And I think it was an important game for not just Owen Heinecke, but for the Oklahoma Sooners defense, for the defensive coaching staff as well, to see that, all right, when we need to give Kobe or Kip a little bit of a breather, we've got 2 guys in Owen and Samuel Masigo, Owen in particular, that we can throw out there, and we're not going to have as significant of a drop-off as we might have had in years past. You know, back in 2022, Danny Stutzman, Deshaun White, and David Agwebu had to all play 990-plus snaps in that season just for them to get by at linebacker. They had Jaren Kanak a little bit, but they just didn't really trust him to go play linebacker as much. Well, that's not been the case the last couple of years. But this year going into the season, we're like, okay, we got Kobe. Feel great about that. Feel great about Kip Lewis. Just when's the next Kip 6 going to come? Really like the potential of Sammy Omasigo because he's just uber athletic and fast and physical. Okay, but what about that 4th linebacker? Who's going to be the guy that steps up? Owen Heinecke through 2 games has absolutely stepped up and proven to be not just a functional part of the offense, but a difference maker not on the offense, but of the defense.
Yeah, that dude's been nails.
Yeah.
And BB talking about him and sneaking into rotations and stuff or whatnot, just the initiative to show that, I really want to play, coach, and I'm going to be good enough for you to play me to the point where you have no choice but to put me on the field. Mm-hmm. I can respect it. And then he got on the field, and guess what? You're like, oh, so like you for real can like play. Okay, well, I guess we're going to play, aren't we? Let's go.
Little lacrosse fun fact for you guys to close out this Locked On Sooners. Pop Warner, the legendary high school football coach from back in the day, he didn't carry baseball as a spring sport. He carried lacrosse as part of his athletics program. Yep. Because he wanted his football players to be more physical and more athletic. And so when they're not playing football during the spring, they'd be playing lacrosse, still working on their physicality, a lot of lateral movement, things like that. And I think it worked out pretty well for the guy. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Make sure you follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can hit that subscribe button. And follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you next time. Boomer
Sooner.